of his daughter, using the presidential jet to go and take photographs
In Bauchi State.
in Bauchi State. People felt that was the limit, especially for. We never had that. I mean, as far as I can recall, even under Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, that many people said was a clueless president. I can't recall having that Nigeria having that kind of story under Umaru Yar'Adua. In fact, people remember the story of how not wanting to foul the presidential office, while he was governor of Katsina. I'm sure that was what also happened when he was president. Then Governor Umaru Yar'Adua will take a step out of the government house to go and buy a cigarette to smoke outside the governor's office. And I'm sure if he was still smoking when he was president, I'm sure that would have happened. So, to now have a man whose antecedent was said to be a function of a high moral code, who was said to be a no-nonsense man, who was said to be incorruptible, to have his daughter use the presidential jet on a private business was, for Nigerians, the height of indiscipline, governmental indiscipline, and even the justification of such acts by people surrounding.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, because his media aide, Garba Shehu, to be precise, said it was a normal practice for families of the president.
No, it's tragic.
Family members of the president.
That statement from Garba Shehu was the most tragic aspect of it. The Yoruba will say that if you are sent as I don't know how to put it now, as a slave, if you are sent a message as a slave, you should deliver it as a freeborn. There are some issues where I think that silence was the best approach to answering them. Government sometimes, to demonstrate that it's not infallible, that it was also prone to mistakes. Sometimes you could keep silent on issues, and people will see it as a government that is contrite, that is sober, on account of what it has done. Not for you to profile very, 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 very pitiable responses to glaring issues. Look, in America, where we took the democratic practice from, I read up, I can't remember the source, I read up material during the week, where it is said that if the president, if the wife of the president of America goes with him on a function that he was supposed to go alone, he pays to the coffers of the American government. If he goes to a function where, goes to a function with the Air Force jet, to a function where he was supposed to go with his wife, if he goes there with an extra person, he pays from his personal purse. And, and this is what is known to be the pattern in, a mature democracy like America.
Now, let me ask you, just before we leave this matter, you have been an aide to at least to two governors that I know of.
Yes.
You were almost an aide to the Senate president.
Yes.
We will get to that. If you were in Garba Shehu's shoes and a situation like this comes up, what would you do?
I just told you that in some instances,
is silence really the
silence sometimes
solution to something like this?
Silence sometimes is a solution to it, because, as I told you earlier, no government is infallible. No human group or human person is infallible. We're also prone to mistakes. And in this instance, for all you care, the president, Buhari, might not know that his daughter was going to go in the presidential jet. The eye service of people in government. Perhaps the daughter directly contacted the person in charge of the release of the presidential jet, and that person felt that he was doing the president a favor, and allow the daughter to have a ride in the presidential jet. But you see, that is where your person, your disposition, because heads to these men in power, they also look at their disposition. They look at what they call their body language. Somebody told me this story. I don't know how true it is. But let me tell you that either in 1999 or 2000 or thereabout, one of Obasanjo's children needed that his car had a problem, and he told the father. And the father told somebody else that he should go and change the engine of that car rather than buying him a new car. I hope you got the purport of that statement, if it is true. You see, it is the body language of the president, of the political office holder, that matters. If you are such a person who indulges your family to the extent that you will do anything for them, even when your heads need to take decisions on their own, they will take decisions that are in tandem with your body language. But if you have a president if you have a political leader who does not brook any nonsense, and who could even, and you see, I told you about the pre-presidency image of Buhari that we had. Here was Buhari, who was incarcerated. I think he was in detention by Babangida, who divorced his wife on account of the fact that she went and pleaded with people to beg Babangida to release her husband. That was one of the reasons why they said he divorced that woman. So when you had such a no-nonsense, what people can explain now is that why do we have a converse of the Buhari that we used to have?
Well, maybe military is different from democracy.
No,
whichever we want to look at it.
Even when you are a military, when you are a democratic leader, there are some dispositions that show you as a no-nonsense person.
It's all right. We just don't have to dwell on that issue because of our time. There is so much to talk about it, but we have quite a number of other issues to look at. Now, let's look at the issue of Supreme Court ruling on the Imo governorship election.
Yeah.
A lot of people look at it from different perspectives. Of course, I've heard people who said that the Supreme Court was right to have taken that action, where the fourth became the first as a result of certain permutations that the Supreme Court considered. Some thought there was a political abracadabra to bring back the APC to power in Imo State.
Yes, let me confess to you that I've not had an in-depth study of that judgment.
Okay.
But all I know is that there is something that is wrong with a system, with a people who do not trust people that they put in positions of responsibility. If it is as bad as Nigerians not trusting the judgment of the judiciary, then we are in a serious problem. I mean, we can even distrust the president. I mean, the executive. If we get to a situation where we believe that the judges at the Supreme Court rule on an issue on account of political interference, then we are gradually moving to a banana republic, if we are not there already. I learned that the PDP and some other people said they were going to carry placards and all that. If we've gotten to that extent, then we are in a serious trouble. I also, and I think that if you look at the antecedents of the CJN, then the antecedents, maybe the way he came into office, the way the former CJN was relieved of his office, then you begin to add two and two together, and you won't really blame those who are saying that this is a CJN this is a Buhari CJN.
But this same CJN has also given the opposition party the same some kind of favorable rulings too.
Don't let us
like
look
in the
at
case
it.
of your state, for example,
don't let us look
and
at
some other states that we know.
Even reasoning along that side, that the CJN, the Supreme Court had given a ruling that favors this person. It's also a reflection of the fact that things are disintegrating, because that is the last hope of the common man. Don't forget that the ruling of the Supreme Court is seen to be final. And so if we can even disagree with the lower courts. We can say that perhaps there are some influences. But the moment we begin to say and begin to believe and begin to have very strong reasons to believe that the Supreme Court comes to decisions on account of either political party affiliation, on account of religious affiliation, on account of ethnic affiliation, then we can say that Golgotha is there.
Is it us that are the problem, or the Supreme Court in this case?
Because
let's look at the case. I mean, the issues at hand.
No, I'm not saying us as a people.
Okay.
I'm not saying the people now. I'm saying that either by inference or by permutations, once the Supreme Court, indeed the judiciary as a whole, comes to a level of suspicion by the people in society, or when things have gone so bad with us as a people that we no longer can trust judicial officers, then we can begin to call it a day as a nation.
That's why I ask again. Is it we who are not trusting the judicial officers, or is it the judicial officers that created that room for mistrust and distrust?
What I said was that it is both ways. If judicial officers have put themselves in a way that the people cannot trust them, or society has gotten to a level where we cannot trust judicial officers, then there is a problem for us as a society.
Fantastic. It's still Voice of Liberation on Pensioners, 106.7 FM, Agbarigo, Onireke, Ibadan. I have with me Dr. Festus Adedayo, a renowned journalist. My name is PIUS NSABE, and together we are looking at some of the issues that made the round during the week. Now, let's take the issue of Amotekun, which has been at the front burners in recent time. Of course, how that the Southwestern governors came up with a security outfit, and the reactions that have trailed that outfit up until the federal government came up with its own position on Amotekun. The question I have been asking as a person is, we're all privy to how the issue of Amotekun came about, up until the point that the governors launched the Amotekun. The federal government did not say anything until recently that the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Abubakar Malami, came up with a statement that Amotekun is illegal. Of course, it's an issue that I would say has been overflowed. We've heard reactions upon reactions. But let's hear what the Ondo State Governor, who happens to be the Southwest chairman of the Southwest Governors Forum, said about the matter.
It is a film that I'm sure at the end of the day, people will still come over to believe that, look, this community policing or vigilante, I mean, there are so many vigilante groups here. It's bad news there in the north. There's so many of these that are there. So I don't see how anybody can now sit down anywhere and say this is illegal. We do not agree with the Attorney General, and anyway cannot make it law in his own chambers there. So if he believes strongly in what he's doing, let him go to court. Or if he believes strongly, let him issue a notice to that effect. And I'm sure that when we meet, we'll decide what to do. No, I do not believe we have to consult with the Attorney General information. No, we consulted with, we have security officers, we have Commissioner of Police who are with us. We discussed this security level in all the states. So it's not something that is hidden. So the state decided what they wanted to do. Look, we cannot, don't overstress this, what we call national when everybody believes that we are under one stream. We are sub-national of Nigeria. So for us, there are many things. That is why the constitution is clear on what the state can do. So for us as governors, we are not running a unitary system of government. This is the federal government. And the federation remains the state. So the states have powers and just as the federal government has powers. But with what we have now, we will discuss this matter and I'm sure it will be settled. No, I've made this clear. We are chief security officers of our own state and we are running a federal system. For God's sake, we cannot continue this way that every other thing we must run to the federal before we take decision. No. We should be able to take decision on our own. We are running a
All right, let's also listen to what a frontline lawyer, Femi Falana, had to say on the matter.
I think it is important to make this point abundantly clear. Before the official launch of Amotekun last week, the federal government expressed some concern, and there was a meeting held between the Inspector General of Police and the representative of the governors, Governor Kayode Fayemi of Ekiti State. At the end of the meeting, it was announced that the federal government, through the Inspector General of Police, had ratified the security initiative. That's not been denied. And by virtue of Section 318 of the Constitution, the government of Nigeria is defined to include the federal government, the state government, local government, or an official of the government. To that extent, the Inspector General of Police has spoken for the federal government. The Attorney General of the Federation cannot, has no power, he doesn't have the power to declare any organization illegal in Nigeria. If he's convinced that Amotekun is illegal, he has to go to court. On the part of the Southwest governors as well, each of the state governors, we need to approach the House of I think it is. The Inspector General of Police has spoken for the federal government. The Attorney General of the Federation cannot.
All right, you're welcome back. It's still Voice of Liberation on Pensioners 106.7 FM, Agbarigo, Onireke, Ibadan. And I have, as my guest in the studio this morning, Dr. Festus Adedayo, a renowned journalist. Now, we are talking Amotekun. You have heard the reaction of Governor Rotimi Akeredolu and, of course, that of Femi Falana on this matter. And I know that a lot of other Nigerians, including the well-known Nobel laureate, Professor Wole Soyinka, has spoken on the matter. What is your own position on this?
Yeah, I must first appreciate the governors of the Southwest on account of what we have been hearing, the defense they have been putting up for Amotekun since this crisis began. I think I must say, as a person, I'm pleasantly shocked at their reactions, because I felt that the moment Aso Rock speaks, they would, cowardly go back to their different places and perhaps disband. I'm most particularly appreciative of the chairman, that's Governor Akeredolu. Why I'm appreciative of his defense of this security outfit is this is a governor who is going to go for an election in the next few months, and we know what obtains. He hasn't been nominated by his party, and that party, we all know that Aso Rock is where the decision is made. And to stand up to Aso Rock like this shows some measure of bravery, which is basically that of generalissimos of Yoruba land of old. Having said that, great lawyers have spoken about how Malami couldn't arrogate to himself a knowledge of law, especially as it relates to our federation, more than any other person else. But I must say that, having set out the provisions of the Constitution that I said the Amotekun has breached, I want to ask whether the Attorney General of the Federation is aware that laws are not, man is not made for laws. Laws are made for man, in which case the man does not become how do I put it now? The man does not become a second-rate party in decisions that have to do with him. You have a people of Nigeria who literally do not believe in the security of their lives by the federal government. In fact, the people of the Southwest, you do not need to conduct a census or an opinion polls to know that the people of the Southwest do not believe that the federal government is up to the task of securing them. You also have a federal police that most times is driven by corruption, by the fact that by politics and by selfishness. You have the Inspector General of Police who does not know what is happening here at the moment, and the commissioners of police that are left in the task of doing that most times are also driven by some selfishness and some politics.
In your own words, your own opinion.
Yes, I mean, it's my opinion. I've said this several times, and I'll say it over and over again.
Okay.
So what I'm saying in essence is that people do not believe the federal government. We all know how chaotic, how volatile the Southwest had been since the onslaughts of people that are labeled Fulani herdsmen, one of the most dangerous terrorist groups by, I've forgotten the organization, something index, which said that they are one of the most violent groups in the world. We have faced some measures of that terrorism in the Southwest.
Okay.
Kidnaps, killing, ransom, and we all recall how they killed the daughter of the Afenifere leader, Mrs. Olakure.
Yeah.
And people who were rescued from their jaws said that without mincing words, that the people who captured them were Fulani herdsmen. Of course, in collaboration with our own people, because there was no way they could. If you hear the narratives of those kidnaps, you know that they had insiders.
It was strategic.
Yes, insiders within us.
Okay.
So what I'm saying in essence is you had that situation. And then, don't forget, we people in the Southwest have been calling their governors all manner of names. That they were not, they were just wars of the federal government. They could not buy it and all that.
Okay.
Because their people were being killed.
So the governors decided to buy
So
it.
the governors now decided to buy it.
There are two issues here.
Yes.
One of which the respected senior advocate of Nigeria, Falana, raised. The issue of backing up whatever they wanted to do with the legislation.
See,
That's one. And then secondly, the issue of prerogative now. Are the governors right? Because we have to leave a lot of sentiment when we are discussing national issues like this. Were the governors right to have gone ahead? Because those are the niggling issues as we see, without necessarily getting clearance from the federal government.
I'm sure you heard what I said earlier.
Okay.
That man is not made for laws.
But there are laws that guide man.
Yes, laws guide man for the benefit of man.
Yes.
But laws, man is not made for law. In which case, between law and man, humanity supersedes legal projections. What I'm saying in essence is that your people, you are here now, you are about to be killed, you now saw something that looks illegal for you to survive.
And
Is your survival more important
the question I'm
than
asking,
recognition of
if
law?
the federal government says the move by the governors is wrong,
Yes.
the question I'm asking you, is that move actually wrong?
What I'm saying, why it is wrong, was what I said earlier. What I'm also telling you now is that there is a suspicion ab initio that this federal government is abetting Fulani herdsmen. Take it or leave it. Go and do a census. Go and conduct a public opinion in the Southwest. People believe, and reasonably so, that the federal government is abetting herdsmen. You talk about the Ruga policy. You talk about all the defense put up by the president himself of Fulani herdsmen. At a time, he said they came from Libya. At some point, he said, I forgot all the defense he offered.
Okay.
So, people see these Malami release as a continuation of the abetment of Fulani herdsmen.
So where do we go? Where do we go from here?
Where we should go from here is where we are. If, as I think I wrote that in my column.
Because some are saying that the governor should go to court.
You see,
but the governors are insisting that the federal government should be the one to go
no,
to
the federal
court.
government should go and test. That portion of the constitution.
So you think Amotekun should continue? Why it is tested in court?
See, my piece that I've done for tomorrow,
Okay.
I give you an insight into it. I went into history, and I cited a man called Abubakar Tafawa Balewa. It was the kind of silence that Tafawa Balewa exhibited to the Western region when the crisis of 1962, after 1962, the 1964 federal elections, the census of the time when there were killings all over the Southwest region. Balewa pretended as if the Western region did not matter. In fact, there was an interview when he was leaving for the OAU summit in Addis Ababa, and he said that he could not take a decision on account. He could not take a decision on the Western region on account of what the press says, and he started building up, and the crisis of the Western region became what failed Nigeria of the First Republic. What I'm saying in essence is that if DSSS people make reports to the president on a daily or weekly basis, they should be able to tell him now that it's like tugging the tail of a tiger, because Southwesterners are united. Have you ever felt the pulse of the people? PDP people, APC people, whoever.
They are on the same page.
They are on the same page.
But there is a man whose
dangerous.
position we are yet to know on this matter. And he's a frontline Yoruba son. You know who I'm talking about?
I know who you are talking about.
Ashwaju
And it's a
Bola
shame.
Tinubu. He has not spoken on this
It's
matter.
a shame that he has not spoken. But you see, when I used to cite, I've forgotten who said it now. He said, when a man's heart is laid on an ambition, a rottenness begins in him. And that rottenness, you cannot know the magnitude. You cannot feel the magnitude of that rottenness unless you know how much that person has put into that ambition.
So are you disappointed in Tinubu?
I'm not disappointed. I'm not disappointed at all.
Really?
I'm not disappointed. I've always said it. I'll say it again. First, Tinubu is not the person that people believe he is. He can never ever be a Yoruba leader. I've said it time and time and again. Well, maybe an APC leader. He can. So in this instance, those who want him to take a decision as a Yoruba leader are failing an exercise. He's not a Yoruba leader. He's just somebody who is interested in position and politics. And you know, those two indices are threatened now. And so he will take decision on account of politics and position.
All right, it's still Voice of Liberation on Pensioners, 106.7 FM, Agbarigo, Onireke, Ibadan. It's 2 minutes to 11 o'clock. At this point, our dear listener, may I open the line? Of course, if you have some conversation to make on the program. 0808 010 1067, 0808 010 1067. 0908 111 1067. 0908 111 1067. Of course, you can also hook up with us on our Facebook page, Pensioners FM 106.7. Pensioners FM 106.7. Also, you can listen to us via our website, www.pensionersfm1067.com. Pensioners, www.pensionersfm106.7 FM. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Pastor.
Good morning, Mr. John Joko.
Yes, that is my name. Dr. Festus Adedaya, I want to thank you for your analysis this morning.
Thank you.
Let me thank you once again. When people become silent, the government becomes oppressive. And the silence in the face of evil is evil, not to speak to speak. Once again, I thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I want to talk on two issues out of the three.
Okay. Let's.
Number one will be the Supreme Court judgment over Imo election. I want to describe the Supreme Court judges like this. They are not final because they are infallible, but they are infallible because they are final. However, judges are unstable to their laws and their conscience. I have my respect for Nigerian judiciary. Regrettably, the unfolding event after the judgment made me believe that the judgment was a politically motivated one, not based on facts. Recall that the Ohanese individual.
Oh, sorry. You may have to call back. Now, we are going to talk briefly about Dr. Festus Adedayo and what he stands for. Of course, your story is something that's... Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
My name is William.
Hello.
Good morning, William.
Oh, Williams. Good morning. Welcome on the program.
Good morning. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Well, first, Tinubu,
Oh, your line is breaking. You may need to shift a bit from where you currently are. Okay. Please call back. Hello, good morning. Okay. Now, Dr. Adedayo, something happened recently when the current Senate president came on board. Of course, he picked you as his media aide. It's well known. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning to you.
I am on Pensioners Radio.
You are very much on to Pensioners FM.
Thank you very much, sir.
Welcome.
Good morning, Mr. Festus.
Good morning, sir.
I always enjoy your analysis anytime I hear your radio.
Thank you, sir.
I think
Your name and where you're calling us
Hey,
from.
sorry. This is John Olariwaju.
Oh, John Olariwaju, good to hear from you.
Thank you, sir. On the issue of Amotefu, I think the federal government needs to be very careful according to what Festus, Mr. Festus said. Because if you look at it critically, you see that the first problem that led to the first growth in Nigeria happens to be the issue of West here, Southwest here. And if they just take the issue of Southwest in left hand, I don't pray for war in this country. Because if you look at the way the Yoruba elders used to talk this time around, it's too much. Even if you look at the statement of FFP on Twitter, I think the statement is too much to me as far as I'm concerned. So they need to be very careful on this issue. And if you look at some other regional people also, they shout and they shouted. They were also in support of this Amotefu. Even some part of the northern people, they were in support of this Amotefu. I don't know the problem of this government. And on the issue of election in the state, my own point on this issue is that it's about Reverend Ibaka. I think the people we call the people of God in this nation need to be very careful.
All right.
I don't know the kind of prophecy.
Mr. Alaro, you may need to round up. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Yeah,
They need to be very careful.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your call this morning. Okay, let's take one more call before we settle down. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning to you.
This is Williams calling back.
Okay, Williams, shoot.
Yeah, I want to say this on the there's this saying, in a time of moral crisis, those that choose their neutrality are dangerous and to be feared. At this time, I would expect that a man like him would have taken a side. At least let's know where he stands. The silence is very troubling to me. What an election.
All right, sorry, your line was breaking once again. Now, let's settle down and get the discussion rolling before we open the lines again. Recently, when the Senate president came on board, he picked you as his media aide. And just as after that, that decision was rescinded for obvious reasons, which most Nigerians read about. And of course, you took your reaction, or you gave your reaction out. We are going to look into that briefly. But in the course of your reaction, you made some statements, which we are going to dwell on in the next 20 or so minutes that we have on this program with you. Now, to start with, you had sworn in that your statement you released in reaction to what happened, never to do the job of publicist again after your experience in government. Did you really swear never to do the job of a publicist?
Once I didn't swear in the front of Amadioa, so
Well, that was the word you used.
Yes.
Why did you say that? Because a lot of young people look up to you. Do you have any reason?
I worked as a media advisor to the former governor of Enugu State between 2003 and 2007, Governor Ajimobi 2011 to 2015. In all my life, I've always been doing, pardon the usage of the word, I've always been doing media. I eat from what I write. I make a living from writing. Whether when I was in the Tribune, when I worked with National Live and all that. And that's what I even do till today. And so when anything that has to do with the media comes up, I tend to excite myself that I have an understanding.
Yes.
I have an understanding of how it is run. But my experience is fine. I won't say that they were bad experiences at all.
Because they seem bad from your
yes, from what I
your
said.
position here.
You see, but it's a thankless position. It's a thankless position in government.
Okay.
In the sense that, of course, with due respect to my colleagues who are handling media offices of politically exposed persons, it's a job that takes your 24 hours and the whole week from you. In fact, I used to write on Sundays, even in church. I'm sure my pastors must be listening to me now.
Because you added, just before you go on, that your stint in government almost killed your writing talent.
Yes,
so,
first and foremost,
I don't know. Are you then discouraging some of us who are in the media not to take up such? We want to know what exactly is happening. As somebody like you will say
allow
that.
me to give you the foundation.
Yeah, we're also looking at the time because we have a number of other issues to talk about.
Having said the fact that I've always lived my life as a writer, I will tell you the story of how I started writing, and my life is writing. I've never done any business before in my life. Okay. I've never taken contracts. I've never done. It's writing, media. And so I went to Enugu. By the time I was about leaving, I remember going to the government house clinic one day, and they said, your BP was rising. I was not hypertensive before I went to government. And immediately I left government in 2007. I went to clinics and my health was okay. And fortunately or unfortunately, in 2011, I got an appointment again as media advisor to Governor Ajimobi. And
it rose again.
And by the time, right now as I talk to you, I'm hypertensive. What that means, what you encounter, you see, you cannot be a media advisor to a person if you do not like that person, if you do not believe in him. I remember when I met the Senate president. I met him for just 40 or 45 minutes in my life, and I've not met him thereafter.
Okay.
I remember telling him that, look, Your Excellency, I never knew you from Adam. If this job, if I get this job, for the next 1 month or thereafter, I'm going to download who you are. I'm going to find out whether I can bond with you, because that's is the foundation. You have media advisors just like Garba Shehu now. Even if the president does anything wrong, the media advisor will take the bullet for him. And I tell you, many times, media advisors, when they come out from government, they are never the same all the days of their lives.
In what sense?
I don't want to mention a particular high-ranking journalist. Before he became media a publicist to this person, he was up there. But the moment that government crashed, he crashed with it.
Are you saying even as a publicist and as a journalist, you still cannot retain whatever you had been by the time you come out?
It's very difficult. Very difficult.
So we shouldn't blame the likes of Femi Adesina and Garba Shehu.
It's very difficult.
For this kind of job
yes,
they do.
You see, I also said that if you are sent on an errand as a slave, as what is it?
As a slave
now,
you should respond as a freeborn.
As a freeborn. There are some ways you can respond, and it will not tarnish your image or the image of the government that you claim to represent. And one of the ways you can do that is silence. Silence as a response is golden when you are a media advisor. So I took it, and with due respect to people who are in the office right now, what you do essentially is the job of a cleaner. You clean messes. So
there are lots of messes in government.
Yes, that's what they call you in the Ministry of Agri. The commissioner has just they found some money with him. You are sitting in your house with the call. You go and clean it up. Whatever happens in any part of the government that you were not privy to, your boss will not call you and say, Festus, I want to go and steal money. When that information gets to the public, you go and clean him up. And I felt that, I mean, younger elements can do this job. I don't think maybe health-wise and disposition-wise I'd want to do that job again. And I didn't want to do it even at that time. But, I mean, that's just a story for another day.
Okay.
So, but what people should do is, you know, when you have maybe a columnist, a journalist, you know, there's a thin line that divides the journalist, the columnist from an activist.
Okay.
Because what you write is you are taking activist stand on issues. And before people know it, they see you as, you know, akin to the Femi Falanas. And when you get to government, they expect you to continue to do that activist role. But the truth of the matter is that the day you leave that job of a columnist, of a writer,
to the government,
they have lost you.
You have become a politician.
Not a politician, but you are responsible to the man who appointed you. I give an instance. There was a piece I wrote when Buhari went on that award leave. We later found out that it was in the UK. When he went on that leave, I wrote that piece, and I said that, look, people should pity those who become media advisors to governors, president, or whoever. Because, and I cited an instance. I said, if Buhari invites Femi Adesina to his office, and while they were talking, the man collapsed, and collapsed, and maybe in 5-10 minutes after he recovered and stood up and pretended. Do you know that that's an exclusive that a journalist should, in the interest of Nigeria, get across to the world that, look, this president, because that's what happens in mature democracies.
But in that case, you would want to cover it up.
He will cover it up because he's responsible. In fact, if any journalist wants to, if they ask him, he will say it is not true.
Okay, now let's talk about the issues around Senate President Ahmed Lawan. How that he picked you, and it's just in a matter of hours, he rescinded that decision. based on a lot of things that followed, which you have
Yes.
said. A lot of Nigerians read about it.
Yes.
And at the end of the day, you described Ahmed Lawan as tribe blind,
Yes.
unassuming,
Yes.
cerebral, and that he will remain your role model of a good Nigerian forever.
Yes.
Does it really have these qualities?
You see, I made that analysis on account of information I was privy to. One of the first information I was privy to was by the person who recommended me, was that the man gave that he told people who were going to recruit his media advisors.
The man,
for him.
that's the Senate president
Yes,
now.
that the person had to be a Yoruba man. And I felt that was, perhaps it could also be a selfish thing. He wanted, because he knows the level of, the depth of Yoruba people in the media, their overriding grip of the media. Maybe that was why he made that statement. But he earned my respect for that.
Okay.
Second was that I have told people time and time again that if the man was just sucked in by my credentials. I mean, ordinarily, in fact, those who told me, those who recommended me, I hesitated because I knew that there was no way they will send my name to the SSS, the DSS people, and they will allow me to be anybody's media advisor or whatever, to play any role in this government. Because I know,
You are a critic of this government. A
and
strong
I
one
don't
for that
even
matter.
hide it, that I cannot stand the Buhari presidency.
But how are you going to actually work with the Senate
It
president?
was going to be a very difficult one, but you see, sometimes when you are going into fire, something will just happen to help you. I think it was Obey who sang, and he was citing the Bible. He said that when it is almost a few seconds for the righteous to step into a gutter or a hole or a pit, that there will come a flash of lightning from somewhere, which would alert the righteous man to the dangerous pit he was about to step into.
Couldn't the Senate president also stuck to his gun and insist that he wanted to work with you, irrespective of the pressure on him? That's principles.
It's dependent on the kind of person that you are. Look, let me give you.
Because I'm asking now, based on your description of the
Yes, let me give you an example. It's also a function of who you are. I don't know his constitution as a person. My analysis could be superficial.
Okay.
Of course, I'm not sure I'm going to be able to say this few months after observing his Senate presidency. But of course, I'm not going to be objective. Whatever you ask me about Lawan, I'm not going to be objective.
Because he didn't know so much
No,
about
I'm
it.
not going to be objective now because I was involved.
Perhaps you are also too much in a haste to have described him this way.
Oh, it's not
A
unlikely.
man whom you describe like this, would he say that President Muhammad Buhari is always right? Giving some of the
I
antecedents, some of the
acknowledge,
things
and
we
that
have
was what
seen.
I said now, that I don't think for now, maybe my previous analysis will be cast in iron any longer, but it could be superficial. And I told you what made me to make that analysis. But having said that, when I wanted to work, there was no person I worked with that this kind of opera didn't arise. The first was when I was going to work with former Governor Namani. Meanwhile, those who criticize me they are so lazy that they don't go into my antecedent. I started writing column for a Nigerian newspaper in 1998.
Yes, you said this.
So I think anybody who wants to know my totality should go and read what I've written since 1998. I started by attacking Abacha, by critiquing Abacha, and very seriously, Abdul Salami Abubakar, Obasanjo. In fact, my criticisms of Obasanjo were so massive that you would think that he probably took my wife. And then when Namani, the governor of Enugu State, wanted to appoint me in 2003, Obasanjo's people rose against it. And they said that guy used to attack the president, and that Namani should not appoint me. Do you know You know, it's an extremely cerebral man. Do you know what he told them? He said, that means that if I bring him on board, your enemies are less than one. That, of course, he can't be here
All right.
and be attacking you.
Now that's about Nnamdi. What about Ajimobi? How were you able to cope with him? People see
Cope?
him as a very controversial character. He is a good man, no doubt about that. But people still see him as somebody who is controversial.
You see, what
And
I
some
see...
some people actually allege that Ajimobi is a very difficult person to work with.
Well, it was very easy working with Ajimobi. What I see in him is a man who doesn't suffer fools gladly. If you are bold and you are convinced about whatever you want to go and present before him, you should understand your principle. Ajimobi can't stand logics. Before you go to him, we used to do PowerPoint presentations before Ajimobi. You go and do PowerPoint
They
presentations.
say he doesn't listen easily.
No. He doesn't. You can't. Let me give you an example. There was a day I took a file to him in his house at Olioli Estate. I went in the company of the former Attorney General. And so we met him, we sat down, the three of us, we were talking. So after our discussion, I brought out one file. He said, hey, I know you have a file to sign. I said, yes, Your Excellency. So he looked at it, he said, Festus, for us to sponsor journalists to the UK, to sponsor 2 journalists to the UK, he said, why should we do this? I said, we have to do it because no government in the history of Oyo State had done that to my knowledge. He said, and that is the reason why we must not do it. I said, Your Excellency, that is the reason why we must do it. He said, convince me. And I started by telling him that, look, if we go into election, they ask us what we have done for journalists in Oyo State. This is one of them. We are going to sponsor 2 journalists to the UK to study. I think it was with Reuters, to go and study at Reuters, to go and... He said, at the end of the day, Ajimobi signed that file. And those journalists were given, taken care of totally. They were given extra code. So if you go to meet Ajimobi and you are panicking and you are beginning to fret, then he just throws your file away.
All right, now let's talk about Ajimobi's relationship with pensioners. We are in the station owned by pensioners, and I'm sure they are eager to hear something that has to do with them. Like you said, you were his media aide from 2011
Yes.
to 2015. And of course, they had a very fantastic relationship at the inception of his administration with the pensioners.
Exactly.
Are you aware that relationship went sour at some point?
I'm
and
aware.
it had to do with the backlog of arrears owed retired primary school teachers and retired local government workers.
You see, Comrade Abato is my very good friend. I remember at the inception of this government, he was ill at some point. I remember the day Ajimobi, I think we gave him that information, and Ajimobi went to the UCH to see Comrade Abato.
Okay.
I'm aware that Ajimobi was one of the people who contributed to the wellness, to the glory of God of Comrade Abaton at the moment. I also know that on account of what he did when we got into government, he was nominated as the best pensioners-friendly governor or whatever.
Yes.
That shows you that if you look at his foundational relationship with pensioners,
it was fine, no doubt about that.
It was fine.
But towards the end, it went sour.
I also believe.
Although you were no longer there,
so I don't have
that
information.
Point.
But I think.
But at least you knew when all these things started.
Yes, it was. I know that pensioners were always coming to the government.
Now
the
point is this, because of our time. Actually, we have another guest after you, whom we are going to host. The point is this. The relationship was fine until some point. And then the governor started owing them backlog, like we said. And the excuse then was that there was no money. Of course, across the country, that was the general song then. It was recession and all that. No money. But immediately Governor Seyi Makinde came on board. He had been able to clear some of part of this backlog. And of course, we all know what is happening to the welfare of pensioners now. The question had been, where had all this money been?
See, I'm not in a position to say what happened between 2015 when I left government and
And now.
2019
Now.
and what is happening now. I don't have any information to that effect. But all I can tell you is that Governor Ajimobi had an open heart.
Did he really have the interest of pensioners at heart?
He did have the interest of pensioners at heart.
It's all right. Let's have your very brief impression about the Pensioners FM. You are a very renowned journalist, and you have come here today. I don't know if this is your first time here.
It's my first time here.
What's your impression?
Ask Mr. Tiamiyu who brought me in from your reception,
Yes.
and I tell you, I'm really, really impressed. I never knew. I used to pass by, on the way to recreation club to play squash. I thought it was just a small building. The little that I've seen this morning, I think you guys are doing. Of course, I've been listening to you.
Oh, thank you.
First and foremost, because of my friend Tiamiyu, we've been friends.
Wow.
Those days when I was in government, the atmosphere is so good, and the quality of your reporting is commendable as well.
Thank you.
I really must commend this initiative.
And the pensioners always beat their chest that they didn't collect a dime from anybody to achieve this.
And I mean that manner of thumping their chests shows that they have, if since they started saying this, if there was any information to the contrary, the persons who had the information would have come up. For them to have done this on their own, I think it is commendable. And I also implore Nigerians and the people of Oyo State to ensure that this legacy, this edifice, is sustained.
Thank you very much. Now, just before I let go of you, Dr. Adedayo,
Yeah.
let's talk about the trial of Brother Osinbajo very briefly. You made certain submissions, and eventually the media, the spokesperson to Osinbajo asked certain questions. Your allegation or your submission in that your trial of Brother Jero article.
You are still fascinated with
Trial of Trial of Brother Osinbajo. You made certain speculations.
Yes.
That he gathered to pray, brought in some men of God to pray his way to power. And this was happening at the time that the President Muhammadu Buhari, was in London on for medical reasons. Now, the picture here is that Osinbajo was praying for Buhari to die in London, just like in the case of Jonathan and Yaradua. That was the picture you painted in that article.
Yes.
And Nigerians came for your head. No doubt some Nigerians who didn't like what you wrote.
Yes.
And there are some questions that Laolu Akonde asked, which you are going to answer now. You seem not to have answered that question.
Okay.
The questions are these. In 3 minutes.
That I should reveal my
So
source.
where exactly in Ogun State did this prayer session take place? And when?
Okay.
What church was that? Who are the prominent pastors that prayed? And then who is this President Buhari's ally that was in that prayer ground that later revealed the source? I mean, that's information to President Buhari. Because what you are trying to say is that Osinbajo's travails had to do with some of these things.
How do I put it? Right now, Nigerians who have been reading me know that I'm not frivolous. I'm not frivolous at all. I'm mindful of whatever I write. And the last time I checked, I doubt if the vice president is in court on account of my allegation. I think that sums up. I'm not going to say anything.
Are you saying everything you said about him was true?
If it was not true, there is a recourse that they could have.
Should he go to court today, do you have your proof against, to support what you said?
I'm not going to say more than that. And don't let us miss one point. I believe that in the ensemble that they have at the federal level at the moment, nobody has Osinbajo's kind of grasp of governance. You will recall that in the last few years, the the little sparkles of good governance that we have had actually came from Osinbajo. I believe Osinbajo has the Midas, but at the same time, we need to tell Osinbajo the truth as a writer. I'm not a politician.
That's why I didn't want to say that you are a Yoruba man, and here you are criticizing your fellow Yoruba man. But that is what journalism is all about.
Look, let me tell you,
objectivity.
When I was working with Ajimobi, do you know that I maintained a column? I'm not going to tell you my pseudonym, and I was critiquing Ajimobi's government.
All right, just before we leave, you leave us in the studio this morning, you are already a pain in the neck as a journalist.
Yes.
And you want to add a law degree to that.
Yes.
What are you? Why
I
do you want to do that?
I've already added a law degree to it.
Oh, you've
I'm
added
a lawyer.
that already. Wow,
I'm a lawyer by the grace of God.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I mean, don't let me bore you with details. I believe that I believe in the acquisition of knowledge. I believe that one of the things that I needed to do was also to satisfy my father, who had always wanted me to be a lawyer. He's late now.
Okay.
So I did that to satisfy him.
All right.
I also did that to make sure that I have a better future.
Well, Dr. Festus Adedayo, we don't have so much time, but I think it's been a pleasure talking with you on Voice of Liberation this morning. I can only hope that some other time we will have enough time to talk about issues. You've been a delight being listened to.
Mandela, freedom is his name. Mandela, freedom to the people. Mandela, freedom is his name. Mandela, freedom to the people. Black people all over the world, let's join hands and fight for this freedom. Black people all over the world, let's join hands and fight for this freedom. Africa is our motherland, no matter where you all are born. Africa is our motherland, no matter where you all are born. This is the time we have to
Welcome back. It's still Voice of Liberation on Pensioners 106.7 FM, Agbarigo, Onireke, Ibadan. My name is PIUS NSABE, and we are into the second segment of Voice of Liberation this Saturday, January the 18th, 2020. We are going to be looking at this recently celebrated Armed Forces and Remembrance Day in Nigeria. Of course, we all know that the Nigerian Civil War, we started on July 6, 1967, ended on January 15, 1970. And ever since then, that day, talking about January the 15th, has been adopted in the country as the Armed Forces and Remembrance Day. I have in the studio with me this morning the chairman, Retired Army, Navy and Air Force Officers Association, Oyo State Chapter, Lieutenant Colonel Adebayo Ajayi, retired. He is the chairman of that body. Sir, you are welcome on the program today.
Thank you very much, listeners at home. Thank you.
All right, let's start with, first of all, asking, because I'm sure a lot of people here, some people actually say it's Armed Forces Remembrance Day. But we in the media know it's Armed Forces and Remembrance Day. These are two different things. Am I right? Maybe we should get that clarification from you.
Call the first one again.
Armed Forces Remembrance Day.
Yes.
And the second one, Armed Forces and Remembrance Day.
Remembrance Day. Okay. Well, that is a semantic you are trying to bring in. So
Okay.
maybe you should try and explain to the people also what
okay.
is this.
But
what
basically, what are we celebrating on that day?
what we say on that day is that we are celebrating. We call it Armed Forces Remembrance Day.
Okay.
But when you say Armed Forces and Remembrance Day,
Yes.
you know, which means there are two.
There are two angles to it. The angle of the armed forces here is that you are celebrating the living, the serving soldiers who are still living. Whereas the other angle, which is the Remembrance Day, you are trying to remember the fallen heroes.
Okay.
So that is how we journalists came up with that.
I think both are okay. You know, I think we are remembering the people that are dead. That is the emphasis that is laid on that day. You know. And then the second one is that we are remembering also to pray for the people that are still alive also.
Okay. Yeah. Now let's look at the activities that take place on that day. You see a lot of political activities, no doubt about that. You see the president of the country and other, the leadership of the National Assembly, that of the judiciary, of course, going to the presidential arcade to lay wreaths, in honor of the fallen heroes. You also see governors across the 36 states do the same thing. Now, but they, in a way, they are trying to remember and show love to the living and the dead military personnel. Does this really reflect when it comes to the welfare of these people, both the fallen heroes and the living ones? Don't forget that these fallen heroes, they have families who are still alive. They have children, they have wives, widows. And from the reports we have got from a lot of them, things have not been rosy. And for those of you who are still living, you are being celebrated. Is it just a mere lip service? That's the point I'm trying to make, that the government is doing on that day. Or does it really reflect in your life as true heroes of this country?
Well, first of all, let me say that let's go back to the background, that mark this day for remembrance, because it is something that has been handed over to us by the colonial masters. Initially, Remembrance Day used to be 11th of November, what we call 11/11.
Yes.
So and that's what we are celebrating in Nigeria also, up to the time it was decided that we should make it indigenous, to us, that we too should now pick a day that we fit into the Nigerian system. And that is why the end of the day the Biafra war ended, which was 15th of January, that day was picked, as the day to be used for Remembrance Day. So that's how the whole thing,
came about.
So, and just like you said, we thank God that the colonial masters, at least, if we are going to be taking the good things that were handed over to us, that's one of the good things that were handed over to us. Because the way we are carrying out our own type of administration, I do not know whether we will still have some people who will be able to even think of that one. Just considering the question you posed to us, or you posed to me, that those of us who are living, do they even remember us? There have been so many agitations, that the people that were dead, they say they are remembering, but the people who are living also, who are the members of the armed forces that are living also, are complaining that if you cannot even remember those, what pictures are you giving to those that are dead? Because for this recent one, it took the courage, and maybe the federal government also reluctantly, because they have been owing pensioners in the military. Some people think that maybe military pensioners, they are just in another Eldorado that are enjoying. But we had 14 months arrears of pension that were being owed to the military.
The military at all levels.
At all levels, from general to private. And it took what will I call a threat from some of the boys.
A threat?
That yes, it was like
you still threaten even outside
okay, they said
the barracks.
They said they are going to protest. At least that is we say we are in democracy. We are allowed also to protest now because we are in democracy and we have retired. So when we say that, why do you want to be celebrating the people that are alive also are dying already? So which means you want to increase the number of people you want to be celebrating. So the boys have to gather themselves and said they were going to disrupt even the 15th of January of this year if this amount of money was not paid to them.
Okay.
So that's just to show the type of administration that we are running. And by the time government doing this type of what do you call it? Pana. That's fire brigade. Fire brigade movement.
Yes.
Within a week, they started calling them for meeting and all those type of things. And at the end of the day, they negotiated that they were going to pay. They will be able to pay 6 months. And then you start wondering, where did they get the 6 months salary? So which means the money was there somewhere. I don't know.
Some people
will just keep it and all this. So which means if not because people are tensed up, we could just say no, we don't want.
So in other words, all the laying of reeds,
so all the laying of that side,
the parade, everything amounts to
because
mere items.
No, because if you see some of these soldiers, that most of us that saw the war. When some of them remove their dresses and you see their condition, their body, some of them this time that you think that maybe is robust and by the time they remove it, you just find that it's just one small bone that is not maybe a little bigger than that of chicken.
What about the generality of the people? Talking about Nigerians now, do they really appreciate you?
I think the Nigerians also they appreciate Nigerian people. They appreciate they contribute money. Because a week to the time to that 15th of January, this emblem is launched, and then they sell it, and then
what do they do? Do you have an idea what they do with that emblem? Money recovered from the emblem launch.
It's better not to poke nose into it, because if you say you want to poke, like for example, in Oyo State, I have been. This is my second time as the chairman of Oyo State. And I always try to find out also that why should they even place legions, under the Ministry of Women Affairs in the state. I don't know whether that is what is occurring also in other states.
Really?
But I don't look at it. Yes, but in Oyo State, you find out that the ministry that is in charge of Legion and all these activities.
Well, since there's no Ministry of Men Affairs,
I don't mind.
Maybe the best
I think the best way to place them is, as far as I'm concerned, even this is to place them under directly under the governor's office. That is the best, so that whenever they have an issue, they can always meet the governor. But when you now go to women, social, and all those things, those legions are not. It's not a social. Affairs, it's something that it's something that even relates to security,
All right, retired Lieutenant Colonel Ajayi, let's try to compare the military of old and the military of today in Nigeria in terms of professionalism and support when it comes to equipment that you need to fight. What would be your analysis in terms of these two things I mentioned, professionalism and support?
I think the type of weapon we use is dependable on. Dependent on technology. Most of the time. And I can say that the type of technology that some people like me, witness when we're in the army is not the one that is prevalent now in the military. So I would say that the equipment has improved, because of technology. That just like when the people are ahead of me also, when they be telling us the way they were moving, when they want to go and attack or they are going for operation, some of them will just like moving by foot and all those things. That is technology. Maybe there are no vehicle here, there is no anything. But now, we now find that the equipment has increased. You have the military now, the army has their own even air support equipment.
Gadget, yes.
Gadget, you know. So the Navy also has their own air support, something, then the Air Force, which is so most of the equipment by the technologies that is available, they have improved.
But what of the issue of professionalism? We had always been told that Nigerian army was rated among the best in the world in terms of infantry and all that. Are we still at that level today?
I think
Now let's tie this down. Sorry. Let's tie this down to some of the reports that we hear in the Northeast, that even the military as at today is being sabotaged by members of the military. So, do we still have that professionalism and discipline that we used to hear of about the Nigerian army?
I would say that the professionalism is there. The only thing is that maybe because of the large population of the military, the soldiers have improved. I mean, they have increased in strength. And in any organization, you must have these black sheep.
Had it always been there like
They
that?
have always been there. But because that time, we are not many. So the black sheep also,
Well,
the ratio will be, when you are talking the proportion, will not be as much as we have today. Today now, during our own time, we have about 4 divisions. But today we are tackling about 8 divisions.
Okay.
So which means the number of black sheep also will increase.
Okay.
You know that. And so when you see people talking about maybe professionals, I don't think so. I think we still have professional soldiers and officers that are still in the armed forces. But the only thing is that there is no way you can eradicate all the black sheep. And that is why we have our disciplinary procedures, we have our military police that are always there. Okay. That is just to so that they know that there are some people that will disobey the system. And when you disobey the system, then you go through the disciplinary action.
All right, the program is still Voice of Liberation on Pensioners, 106.7 FM, Agbarigo, Onireke, Ibadan. I totally understand that I have done my listener a huge disservice today by not involving you in a larger chunk of the conversation. But you can understand with me, given the issues that we had to discuss, of course. But you can still call in to make your submission in the little time that we have left. 0808 010 1067, 0808 010 1067, 0908 111 1067, 0908 111 1067. I'm talking to Adebayo Ajayi, a retired Lieutenant Colonel of the Nigerian Army. He is the chairman, Retired Army, Navy and Air Force Association, RANAO, here in Oyo State. As we wait for our callers, I want to ask you another question. Given the security infractions that we have around the country today, would you say that the Nigerian Army is overstretched? Because we have seen a situation where the army is called into civil matters, unlike it used to be in the days of old. And of course, despite that, it seems as if the security situation of the country, or the insecurity, is far from abating. Is the military overstretched?
Definitely the military is overstretched because the number of conflicts have really increased.
Okay.
So, and like I always say, I pity because if you go to most of the barracks, you'll find that that most of the men and women soldiers, they are one operation or the other. And by the time they are finishing one, if they have the time to come and rest before they took off an eye, they are on for another operation. So there's so much conflict, and that is why we are pleading. Even we also, we plead to the politicians that they should look for a way because there are so many solutions that have been put forward. Look for a way to resolve all these conflicts. But we understand that there are some people that maybe they gain from things that are going on like this, and, but definitely the soldiers are stretched and they are not allowed. During this time with this, they are supposed to be training. And now they don't have time to train. They are always going off for operation, and some are in the field for the past 1 year. They cannot even come back to their family to come and relax. They just send messages to each other.
Okay.
It's not good enough.
Okay. Now let's look at how the security has been able. No doubt, there's no doubt that the effort of the military personnel in the country have actually, to a very large extent, helped in containing the insecurity that we have in the country. There is absolutely no doubt about that. But then, what can the military do differently from your own, with the benefit of hindsight now, from your own experience as a retired military officer? Are there things that are being done that you think could be done better in checking these security issues once and for all, particularly in the Northeast?
The military have been trying their best. They have been putting on all the best they can do. I think the only area is that we say that there should be improvement is just like I said, to plead with the politicians to make sure that they do not increase the number of conflicts that we have. On the part of the military, I cannot see any area where maybe they are lacking. Like I said, I know that some people will be thinking of maybe when you see some soldiers maybe doing some things. That is very, very few of them. But that is not the general attitude of most of the majority of them.
Okay.
But the only thing is that we can contain these conflicts in the Northeast and all those things is to make sure that to go to the real to the bottom of the whole issue.
Okay.
What are the problems?
And you think it has more of a political solution than a military solution?
I believe
that's what you are driving at.
I believe that it has more of political solution than the military. That there are some people that are making some gains on it. There are some people that and then the governors, in most of this area.
Let's take this call. Hello, good morning. Hello, good morning. Hello. All right.
Hello, good morning. Can you hear me?
Hello, good morning.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear. Your name and where you're calling us from.
This is a friend calling from Muslim.
You're welcome on the program. Yes.
My question is, why is that improving that? Not only things when people live outside.
You said what?
Some soldiers,
Yes.
you don't tolerate some sometimes from people outside. For instance, when the car of the soldier are moving along the road.
Okay, they don't tolerate sharing the road with other road users.
Exactly.
They always want you to give way. Okay, I think he will respond to that. Thank you. Is the military trained to be forceful in everything, at every point in time? Don't you have some level of civility? For instance, where you are within the civil environment, you try to be civil at some point. People always think that once you are putting on that khaki, then it's all force.
Well, just like our renowned fella Anikula Pokuti will say, he said, this uniform we are wearing is not leather. It's just ordinary clothes. So if you see any soldier that maybe is behaving rudely, if it's on, that person is just rude on his own. There's no training that is given to any soldier to misbehave.
And if the guys find out, what do they do?
That's right. If that type of person, most soldiers, at least all of us, we are told to be properly dressed. Your name tag must be with you there.
But
Must be on your
what about this
So-
issue of ensuring that you are always given your right? The soldier always wants the right of way at every point in time to be the one
There's nothing
for
that.
others to just park one side and allow them pass.
If you know that maybe you have been
And they have their koboko always.
if you have been maltreated, and you know, you can take the name of the person and come and
All right.
report.
Before we go on the program this morning, I have just two questions for you. The first you would answer very briefly is, what do you make of the fact that we have had this same set of military chief with President Muhammadu Buhari from day one of his administration? Not really day one per se, but from the inception of his administration up till now. He has refused to change any of them. And a lot of Nigerians have been complaining. What do you make of that? Is that good enough? Objectively speaking.
Yes. Objectively speaking, I believe that, like, so many people have asked me this question actually, and I always say that, well, when the service chiefs were going to be appointed, the commander in chief did not consult any person, and he gave them a mission.
The point is, are they doing well enough to have
That's
retained
That's what I'm saying. The person who gave them that mission to say that this is what I want you to do, if they are not accomplishing that mission, he will have changed them.
Okay.
Because they are doing what he tells them. But to us, I believe that many Nigerians, we just want changes. There have been no, I think the commander in chief, the president, just appointed ministers
Yes.
about maybe about 8 months ago or something like that.
Yes.
Nigerians will want ministers to be
less than 8 months actually.
They be wanting minister to be changed 6 months because that is what will satisfy them.
Okay,
so that's the way I look at it.
now, should troops be pulled out of certain parts of the country or not? Should troops be pulled out of certain parts of the country or not?
Troops are not even supposed to be
In
doing
parts
some
of the
duties.
country. But we understand the circumstances in the
The
country.
circumstances that make troops to go and occupy is abnormal. It's abnormal.
So should they be pulled out? Are we ripe for them to be pulled out?
By the time they pull them out, there's somebody that is going to replace them, and that is the police.
Okay.
But normally when you introduce military, troops to a conflict area or to a civilian area where they are going, once they are occupying, and then they watch the situation, because the longer they stay there, the more
militarized
they
becomes.
That's right. So in order not to make it as if maybe we're in a military or in a war situation, they will now say, oh, the situation has changed. They are not. The troops are not there just to massage the ego of people to say, oh, we have soldiers guarding us. By the time they know that the situation is becoming normal, they will withdraw them and bring back the normal police who should take over.
So it's a standard practice.
So it's a standard practice.
Lastly, what's your position on Amotekun?
Oh, well, every person. Okay, I like Amotekun.
Is it a welcome development?
It's a welcome. In fact, we have been looking forward to it since, because I attended one of their meeting at Ogulesi Hall and we were expecting that maybe it should have taken off even before this time.
But the federal government says no, it's illegal.
Is it the federal government? I think they just put somebody forward. Let me just.
It's the federal government. The moment the Attorney General of the Federation speaks, that is the position of the federal government.
What we are saying is that they get, because if the federal government really know that they love security and they love to preserve lives of their people, no person should come and antagonize this. But because the unity of purpose of the Southwest, I think it's frightening to the people who are the people we call the cabal.
All right, that's the size we can take on Voice of Liberation this morning on Pensioners 106.7 FM at Barigo Onireke Ibadan. I must say a very big thank you to retired Lieutenant Colonel Adebayo Ajayi, who is the chairman, Retired Army, Navy and Air Force Officers Association Ranao, or your state council. And I must also say a very big thank you to my earlier guest, Dr. Festus Adedayo, a renowned journalist. A very big thank you to the producer of this program, Tunde Tiamiu, and of course, Abiola Ayodele, who has been my in-house producer. Thank you very much to my listener and of course those who called and those who attempted to call. Let's do this again sometime next week. My name is PIUS NSABE. Do have a lovely weekend. continue to be a good citizen of the country. And may God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
The sky look misty.